When I look back on the early days of our engagement, I sometimes wonder how something so beautiful could crack so suddenly. Sarah and I had been together for 3 years before I proposed. She's an architect, sharp, independent, always full of ideas about how to redesign every space we walked into. I work in software project management, which means my life revolves around planning, structure, and keeping things running smoothly. In many ways, we balanced each other out perfectly. She brought creativity and boldness, while I brought patience and organization. Our friends used to joke that we were the ultimate power couple. When she said yes to my proposal, I felt like the luckiest man alive. The next 6 months were a blur of excitement. Wedding planning consumed our days. Venues, menus, flowers, music. We laughed through disagreements about canapés and argued playfully about whether the band should play more 80s classics or modern hits. It wasn't always easy, but it felt like we were on the same team. Every challenge was just another chance to prove how well we worked together. I thought we understood each other. I thought nothing could shake us. I was wrong. Subscribe for more stories of clever revenge and justice served. The dinner that changed everything. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday night. I was tired from work, and Sarah had cooked salmon, a little burnt around the edges, but still delicious. We sat at the table, candles flickering, talking about nothing in particular. Then she put her fork down, looked straight at me, and said, "I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to get weird about it." I laughed, thinking she was about to tease me. "What is it? Finally admitting you hate my Star Wars mug?" She didn't laugh. Her face was serious. "No, it's about after the wedding. I'm not taking your last name. It's 2025. That tradition is patriarchal and outdated. I'm not your property, so just get over it." Her words didn't just land. They hit like bullets, one by one. It wasn't that she wanted to keep her name. Honestly, I could have understood that. It was the way she said it, the assumption that I would be some caveman who needed to be told off. The "get over it" stung more than anything. This wasn't a discussion, it was a decree. The warmth in the room vanished. My stomach knotted, and suddenly the salmon on my plate tasted like ash. I set my fork down and took a slow breath. My response. She was staring at me, waiting for the fight she thought was coming. She expected me to argue, to insist, to prove her right about me being traditional or controlling. But I didn't. Instead, I looked her in the eye and said calmly, "Okay, cool. I'm not taking yours either." The silence that followed was explosive. Her jaw dropped. Her eyes widened. For a moment, she didn't even seem to process the words. She said, "What?" I said, "You heard me. If taking someone else's name is about ownership and patriarchy, then neither of us should do it. You keep yours, I'll keep mine. Simple." She blinked, then frowned. "That's not the same thing." "Why not?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "You're making a unilateral decision for yourself. I'm doing the same. That's equality, right? Or were you expecting me to take your last name instead?" She didn't answer. She just sat there, furious and shocked. I stood up, pushing my chair back. "When you're ready to actually talk about this like partners, we will. But I'm not marrying someone who thinks of me as the enemy." And I walked out of the room. The longest 48 hours. That night, I didn't just take a walk. I drove for hours, letting the cold night air wash over me through the open window. My mind raced. Was this really happening? Were we seriously about to fall apart over a last name? But deep down, I knew it wasn't about the name. It was about respect. When I came home, she was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling until morning. The next 2 days were agony. We moved around each other in silence, like ghosts. No wedding planning, no little jokes, just emptiness. And yet, in that silence, something was happening. Both of us were thinking, processing, realizing. For me, it forced the question, why did I care about the name in the first place? Was it tradition? Ego? Or was it simply the idea of sharing something that symbolized unity? For her, I could tell she was beginning to question the way she had delivered that ultimatum. The apology. On the third evening, she came into the living room where I was sitting with a book I hadn't been reading. She curled up on the couch, her knees to her chest. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. Her voice trembled. I stayed silent, waiting. "You didn't talk to me," she continued. "You talked at me. I spent weeks building this fight in my head, reading articles, talking to my friends. I convinced myself you'd be against me, that I had to fight you to protect myself. And I treated you like an enemy when all you've ever been is my partner." Tears filled her eyes. "When you responded the way you did, it shattered my script. You weren't who I had imagined in my head. You were calm, logical, and bright. I realized I was being selfish. I wasn't thinking about us. I was thinking about me." Her vulnerability broke something open in me. "It was never about the name," I said softly. "It was about you thinking so little of me that you believed you had to prepare for war. You didn't see me. You saw a stereotype." She wiped her eyes and whispered, "I know, and I'm so sorry." The real conversation. That night, we finally talked, really talked, not about names, but about what they meant. She admitted she was terrified of losing her identity. She had built her career under her name, her reputation, her independence. Changing it felt like erasing a part of herself. I admitted I was scared too, not for her independence, but for losing the sense that we were a true unit, a family with a shared symbol of togetherness. We both realized the last name wasn't the real issue. The real issue was fear, hers of losing herself, mine of losing us. Exploring options. Over the next week, we explored every option. She could keep her name, I could keep mine. We could hyphenate. I could take her name. Or we could even create a new blended name together. We laughed at some of the combinations. Anderker sounded like a villain from a dystopian novel. But in the end, after many long talks, we chose the simplest path. She would remain Sarah Parker, I would remain Mark Anderson, and our future children would carry a hyphenated surname. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. The aftermath. Strangely, that fight turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to us. It forced us to communicate in a way we never had before. It made us realize that marriage isn't about one person winning and the other losing. It's about building something new together, a partnership, and us. And when the wedding day came, the officiant didn't pronounce us as Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. Instead, it was simply Sarah Parker and Mark Anderson. Two equals, choosing each other fully. And when I looked at her walking down the aisle, I didn't care what name was on her ID. I cared that she was the woman choosing to walk towards me, choosing us. What I learned. That night over salmon taught me more about relationships than any book or therapist could. I learned that respect matters more than tradition, that assumptions can destroy trust faster than any fight, and that the symbols we cling to, like last names, are often just masks hiding deeper fears. Sarah and I still have our differences. We always will. But now, when we face them, we don't assume, we ask, we listen, we fight for us instead of against each other. Closing. So when people ask why we didn't share a last name, I just smile, because the truth is we share something far more important. We share respect, we share honesty, we share a partnership that survived its first real storm. And to me, that means more than any name ever could.